Hey everybody, Sarasota Tim. Heading to the gym. Hey, I'm a poet and didn't know it. It's very, very bright today and my eyes need to be covered. Got a video for you. I want to talk about the economy. I've been hinting around that I want to talk about some things. You know, I like listening to all this stuff and I want to stay in the know. I get it mainly from others out there in YouTube world. I don't listen to the media because the narrative that they give you is that everything is great. You know, they're just an extension of the people that don't want to tell you the truth about anything. So I don't listen to them. I try to get more of a independent review, and then they don't know what they're talking about either, and nobody has a crystal ball. But some things are evident and some things are like not sustainable, like the economy that we have right now. So I don't know if you know, but a lot of things are in the background happening that they're not talking about and people aren't aware, and they don't really want to broadcast it. In reference to the economy, to the real estate, to the commercial real estate, I talked about this in a video before, that the commercial real estate is absolutely gone. It is frozen. There are no loans to get it. Vacancies in these buildings have dropped in the last 4 years from 79% down to 50% and dropping like a rock. People are working remote, and so what a lot of people don't realize is investors that buy shopping malls, strip plazas, apartment buildings, and office buildings, these mortgages they get are 5 to 10 years, not 30-year housing mortgages. So there's a lot of refis that happen so that they can keep their cap costs, which is another word for their profit. That they go into these businesses to collect rents and to net a profit. They don't buy these businesses to sell the buildings and make profit like, you know, some people do with homes or flipping houses, flippers, you know. This is an occupancy profit, and they refer to it as a cap cost. Well, the cap cost was only a slither when they started, and now the rates continue to go up, and they want to refinance because all these payments and cost of owning these buildings have increased so much. They're not making any money. They're actually losing money, and the devaluation of office buildings, shopping plazas, malls, and apartment buildings are going down. Bottom line is, it's costing these guys that own these properties, so they're just walking away. They're walking away. They're handing the keys over to the bank. They're saying, we're out, we're done. And they do that. They've done this before in previous recessions where they just, you know, they don't care. They just file bankruptcy and, you know, somehow or another they start up again, but they're walking away. So now the banks, the commercial lenders, it's usually regional banks, not these giant banks like Wells Fargo per se or Chase. It's all these regional banks. They're carrying like trillions of dollars worth of debt on these commercial real estate loans that are going to have to write down those loans on the books, and they need to get liquidity. So follow me so far. So what's going to happen, and what is happening right now, is there's a credit crunch. These regional banks have stopped lending, and they are trying to find money. So all the businesses out there, because of the commercial real estate going out, all the smaller businesses, the mom and pop places that need loans and capital to continue doing their business, can't get money. So they're being squeezed off. Now unemployment's going up. They're closing their doors. The commercial real estate buildings are being sold at, they're down 11%, as much as 90%. I saw something online where a building was bought for $200 million 16 years ago, sold for $9 million. 90% drop. So all these commercial buildings are really, really going to create a credit crunch for these regional banks, which are desperate for money, and rates are too high. So they're not going to be loaning any money. Small businesses are going out because they can't get capital. How it's going to affect the housing market? Well, when people can't pay their bills, all of these investors that own Airbnbs and private homeowners that have second homes are going to be doing forced selling. They need money because the cost of everything is so expensive on these other properties. They need to sell. And that's going to bring thousands and thousands of properties on the market, because right now there's a shortage of houses. So that's why the real estate market's kind of holding high. Plus the real estate market is holding high because the spring season, even in 2008 during the housing crash, when they went down 50%, they actually went up in the spring of each year during the best part of the year when houses sell, even though they were down. So everybody thinks because houses started actually going up for a month or two or three during the spring here that just passed, but now we're going into the summer and fall where, you know, people don't want to be caught in the dead of winter. If they need to sell, they're going to have to start dropping their price. So you're going to see housing going down. People can't get loans. The banks are crunching. The feds are going to raise rates. The Airbnb people are losing money. You can sit on your couch and buy a 1-year treasury bond for 5.25%, 5.1%, and make more money than these commercial professional investors are doing with office buildings. Think about that one. So everybody is, you're going to see a lot of things happening between the end of 2023 and into 2024. So it's not bad news. This is good news. We need this house of cards to fall. It's not sustainable when people are sitting on the sidelines for 2 years now wanting to buy a house and can't because they're not selling. There's no applications being done right now. If you did try to buy one, it would cost you'd probably make 2 payments and go bankrupt. It's stupid. So people aren't buying houses. There needs to be more houses. There either needs to be a lower price or rates got to come down. Rates aren't going to come down. They might come down like nothing and still stay high. They have to stay high to get inflation down. So we already know that's going to happen. So the only thing that's going to save us is if the price itself, and that's what happened in 2008, the price itself. Cars aren't selling. Guess what? New car payments are $1,000 a month. Used car payments are over $500 a month. New car payments average $700 and something a month. And used cars are $525 a month. This can't be forever. This is not sustainable. It's just like when they shut down the economy during the pandemic, you can't have like no dollars changing hand. So they printed $10 trillion. They lined the pockets. They kept the economy going. They propped it up. We did everything. And now they're doing what they can. And they created all this inflation because they printed way too much money. A lot of people stole a lot of money. And the stock market got really blown up because people were buying their own stocks and yada, yada, yada. So we got this big mess now. So something is going to change. A lot of things are going to change. We need more houses. All these people that bought half the houses that were for sale are owned by investors and mom and pops that bought second and third homes, Airbnbs. These people are going to start selling, and they need money, and they have to sell them what people can afford. If the rate is 20% APR, they're going to have to make the price of the house low enough that the mortgage payment meets the income of what people make. What do people make? Well, the average income is like 70 grand around the whole country. And most people don't even make half that. So, you get a household income between two might make between, 70 to 100 grand between a husband and a wife. But when you're making $500 to $1,000 car payment, and then, you got rising HOA and homeowners insurance is bonkers here in Florida. Food prices are exorbitant. Gas is crazy. People have to pay student loans. They're going to forgive. Did you hear that? They're going to forgive some people that have already been paying for the last 25 years that have never missed a payment. They're going to forgive them, possibly. But everybody else, until you've got 25 years under your belt and never missed a payment, you got no help. And if you're talking about not making your payments or you ever missed payments, you're not going to. So that whole debacle there is another whole story. It's 44 million people with $3 trillion. And the only people who are going to make out on it are these colleges that have overcharged everybody for this crazy price for education that nobody uses when they get out. They go to work at McDonald's after getting a master's degree. Now I'm speaking facetiously. Don't make these payments. They signed up promising to pay, got 3 years reprieve because of the pandemic, no interest and everything, and they went out and bought $1,000 iPhones and new cars, and they're taking cruises, they're taking vacations, or renting Airbnbs, but they're crying they don't want to pay their student loan. I can't pay it, and probably can't. I mean, especially when the job layoffs are going to start happening. Some are. But as you can see, it is a cluster. It is a big ball of snowballing effect that is absolutely going to crash. And anybody that thinks there's going to be this Goldilocks soft landing or no landing and no recession, you're dreaming. It is absolutely going to happen, and it's happening now behind the scenes. And so as it starts to happen and more, banks could probably fail. But don't you see, folks, these another thing too is they're building houses like crazy. There's so many contractors building apartment complexes and single family homes that are about ready to be done. And when the Airbnb people start to sell because they can't rent them, nobody wants to rent them, there's no profit in it anymore, and they need to sell them because they need money. And then apartment buildings, because they're not making any money because rents are coming down. Yes, they are. So they don't have the cap cost, the profit margin they wanted. All these shopping malls that are going out of business because they can't get loans and capital, so they're empty. So people are walking away from their mortgages, from office buildings, shopping strips, malls, just like in '08. Vacancy. The banks are going to be looking to we're not loaning any more out. Everybody's not paying. So we're tightening, which they've been doing now for 4 months. Since February, there hasn't been any really to speak of commercial loans at all. Banks haven't done that. Haven't made any loans. And mortgage loans haven't been making either because nobody has, the means, or there's not a house available, or even wants to sign up for $450,000 at 7.25%. And that's if you got excellent credit and 20% down. I hear that there's builders that are actually offering 2 and 3% under the mortgage rate right now, like 4%, to buy brand new homes they just finished building because they need to sell them, and $10,000 towards closing cost. So they're losing, 50, 60 grand that they're rebating in like they used to do with cars. Cars, they're trying to work off a sheet and try to keep the profits high like they were enjoying for the last couple of years. All these cars are getting manufactured now and coming in. There's only 2 manufacturers that are still holding out for good money. That's Honda and Toyota. You go by any Dodge dealer and they got cars pouring off the lots. They're just They're just filled up over there, but nobody can afford them. They want, I think it's 7% and 11% on used cars and those crazy payments. And people are defaulting on their car payments because they have all these other expenses. So all of these things are happening, but the news won't tell you about that. Everything is great. There's not going to be a recession. The houses went up, because it was a seasonal time, and everything's just great. But you watch what happens. You just watch. All those that have some money and no debt that are poised in the next year, don't buy a house right now. Don't let these real estate people say, oh, don't. It's called FOMO, afraid of missing out. Need to buy now. Just buy it. Just do it. And some are, but it's a mistake. Wait. All those that bought within the last 2 years and buying right now, you're going to be underwater for years before you have any equity, especially if you went in with like minimal down payment. So I hope you like that house. But if you buy a house, townhome or something like that in the next year or so, when all this starts to happen and all this availability comes on the market, and it'll happen quick. I mean, once Airbnb and the real estate market and people that have their homes that want to sell and down trade, or the people that are dying and they leave it to family members, they just want to sell it, and they're going into the winter time now, they'll sell, and all these things become on the market. It happens fast, and then now you have all of these properties, so that brings everything down. Don't worry about the rate coming down. That can't happen for a while. It probably won't happen for a long time. So you'll never probably see 2 or 3% again. But I'm not a genius. I don't have a crystal ball. But I can tell you this: there's going to be a change coming, and we've been waiting. You think that 2 years is a long time? That's long enough. It's long enough, because it can't go any longer. Just like the pandemic, they had to print money. They had to give stimulus checks. They were forced. Now, they're not going to do that again, but there has to be something, because this is not sustainable. We have to buy houses. We have to sell houses. This is what makes the economy go around. People make money from selling a house and buy cars, computers, new phones, other houses and things. The money has to keep turning. It can't dam up. And it's dammed up right now. And the banks are all tightened up. They're afraid. And they don't want to say what they're doing. They're going to go out. Then all these bigger banks are going to buy all of their accounts at a dime on the dollar. And they're going to get bigger. But there's coming a time in the used car market that they're going to be coming down. People need to sell these cars, second and third cars, these homes, that if you didn't make the mistake, and you don't make the mistake of having a lot of credit card debt. That's another thing too. People are, you can look at the charts. The average person in America has a tremendous amount of credit card debt. You can never really pay that off. That's one of these things that's like a student loan. It just doesn't work unless you get an inheritance or sell your house and take all your money and give it to the bank that you got your credit card with. That's the hardest thing in the world to pay off, next to a Home Depot card. My friend used to say that. He said, that's the hardest card in the world to pay off. So as you can see, yes, there's enough scenarios and enough areas in our country that are frozen right now that people are sitting on the sideline and not doing, but their money's running out. They can't just keep sitting there because it's costing them. And nobody wants to go broke. You think these millionaire investors that own these shopping malls or these office buildings, the one like the bailed out on that $161 million office building I heard about in Washington, one of the biggest asset companies in America, they're not going to sit there and just, well, I got to make my payments though. And even though the building it was devaluated and he can't refinance it, and his costs have gone double, tripled, and no one's in there working because they're all working at home, he's not going to sit there and go, well, but I want to keep my credit good, so I'll just keep paying until I go broke. Heck no. they default. They go, here's your keys. They file BK. And then the banks have to sell these things. And that's what's going to happen with houses, foreclosures, people dropping their prices on these Airbnbs. I'm repeating myself. So you can see the peak is over. Now the slide comes. So be ready to be able to crush some deals.